Welcome to the LC3 Family Talk podcast, where we take a deeper look at everything from recent sermons to current events, all through a biblical lens. You'll love the guests and stories you'll hear on LC3 Family Talk, where our goal is connection, community, and relationship with God and with one another. And now, here's your host and one of our pastors, David Pritchard.
Well, hello and welcome to LC3 Family Talk. So glad that you are here. Pastor David here. And hey, today we've got a fun conversation, a little bit different than anything we've done because we are in real time a week away from Halloween. And wow, Halloween's a lot of things, and we're going to talk about some of those things. But we also have an event coming up that's tied to Halloween. And so because of all of that, I've invited a couple of people that some of you will recognize. And so I've got Pastor Reese and Pastor Brendan here, and I'll let them tell you a little bit about their role here at Lake City, and then we'll jump into this conversation about what's coming up.
Yeah, I get to be our pastor of discipleship, which includes our next gen ministry, that birth through college age, as well as some of our adult discipleship and leadership development. So our intern program, which we started new this fall as well. And so those are kind of the three.
So excited about all of that.
Yeah,
That's
really
so great.
Yeah.
And I'm Brendan, and I'm our pastor of high school discipleship, which is just my focus is on high schoolers and their families, parents, and just offering discipleship and support to them.
Great. Well, thanks you guys for being here. And so one of the reasons that I have them here is because our next gen ministry is really taking lead on an event that's coming up next week in our, as we are recording this. So depending on when you're listening to this, you may have time to actually take part in this. But the other thing is that we are going to talk a little bit about Halloween because that's tied to all of this. And so because of that, I thought it would be fun. Let's start with just, I'd love to hear, what was Halloween like growing up for you? Like, what did that look like? Since you were probably closest to your childhood,
Oh, yeah.
Let's start with you, Brendan.
Yeah, Halloween for me. Looking back, it was always fun. I mean, as a kid, it's like, oh, you get to get a ton of candy in a fun way. You get to eat a ton of candy, and you get to dress up, which was a ton of fun. I always enjoyed it. Growing up, actually attending LC3, I always did the Harvest Carnival, which was like, it was activities. You played games to get candy. It was like a very centralized space where everyone came. You had to have fun, and even as I grew up and I was like, okay, like I still want, like, it's still fun to dress up, but I kind of got to move from participating in it through just attending to serving at it and having it be a thing where the community was really focused. I also was in a very DIY Halloween family, so we didn't buy our costumes, but it was like, okay, if you want to be this character or be this costume, like what do we have around the house that you can throw together and put together, which was always just a ton of fun as an added element. It wasn't just, oh, wear the costume, but
see how creative you can be.
See how creative can you be. Which was always just a lot of fun. But I look back on it fondly. Like, it was fun with my family, fun with my older siblings, and it was definitely a community event for me, especially having the main way I participated being at the church at like the Harvest Carnival.
It's kind of cheating though, like your mom being who your mom is and her creativity, and then your dad being handy with tools, and I mean that's kind of cheating.
Oh yeah.
I was literally just thinking when you were saying that, because Wesley was like, I think I want to be like a garbage truck this year. And I'm like, you can't just go buy a garbage truck costume. They don't make those. You need like a DIY, and I'm not the person for that. I grew up in a family that was very different from a DIY type of family. We, oftentimes it was like I was a superhero and we bought that costume. But I think for me, like every fall, right, October, I was playing football. And so my uniform, or my football uniform became my Halloween costume. And cheap. It's already there.
Absolutely.
And our family tradition was going to my grandma's neighborhood. They gave out like the big candy bars. It's where everyone went if you wanted the really good candy. And I didn't grow up, I didn't have my own neighborhood, so we went to my grandma's house. All my siblings went around, trick-or-treated, and then we'd always come back, sort all of our candy out, and then, make trades for the candy that, I actually liked, which wasn't like the 100-gram bars or the like Almond Joys. My dad took the Almond Joys. So I definitely have really fond memories of Halloween growing up.
Yeah. So, way back, And yes, we did have Halloween back then. I know, it's amazing. But a couple of things that come to mind is, one is, it was very much a little kids thing. You went trick-or-treating when you were little. And in fact, I can still remember the wrestling match when you went to junior high. And and it was like, are you still going to go trick-or-treating? And it was kind of like, oh, no, I mean, I'm too cool. I'm too old for that. But as a little kid, it was different in the sense that parents literally just sent you out the door. And, it wasn't parents walking with their kids down the streets. Like, the streets were just filled with kids. It was considered safer. And so, you just did it. And we would go a long time, come back with, a lot of candy. But it was fun, and we enjoyed it. We probably fell somewhere between your families in terms of the DIY and the buying our costumes. But I too just have fond memories of it. I don't remember quite the extensiveness of some of the stuff that we see today in terms of just what's in yards and all of that. But definitely it was a fun. It was a fun holiday as a kid. What's interesting as I was getting ready for this conversation is, when I looked at an article, I read an article that came out in Gospel Coalition, but one of the things that they said was that at the time, it's this 2013, they said it was the second highest grossing commercial holiday. And I was like, oh my goodness, which is still true today. I mean, second only to Christmas, which is, I don't know, in some ways it's kind of mind-boggling to me, because you think of, all the other, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Easter, like, are there no other, holidays that are bigger commercially? And it's like, no, it's Halloween. But here's the ones, a couple of the statistics that really hit me, was National Retail Federation. So this is a more recent statistic. The commercial spending at Halloween hit a record $12.2 billion in 2023. But here's the one that blew me away. $700 million are predicted to be spent on pet costumes. It's like crazy. So all that to say, like, it was fun growing up. It is a thing now. What are you guys seeing when you look around today with Halloween?
Yeah, I think, like, almost anything in our culture today, the rise of social media plays such a role in how people see others relating to something. And it's a little bit of the effect of, I see somebody wanting to do it, and I also want to do it, that, FOMO, fear of missing out. And so I think people are posting their pictures online, and we see more advertisements. So I think we're just more inundated with information, and so more people are participating potentially than years before.
Do you remember that there was one of those things that was going viral where parents were taking their kids' candy?
Yes.
And then filming their reaction in real time of, finding out the next morning that, oh, I ate all your candy.
Yes. It's like the most horrifying thing that could happen to a child, right? Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, that's one for me. I also wonder, and this might be thinking a little too philosophically about it, but we're a generation that's obsessed with identity. And I get to dress up as something that I'm not, right? And so does that play any sort of role into Halloween? I don't know, but I think it's something worth considering as well.
Yeah. What are you seeing, Brendan?
Yeah, I think I agree with Reese, and I think even looking at it as it's culturally grown, one of the things I see, and this is kind of holidays in general, I think Halloween is just one that is impacted as well, is people's crave for community and even togetherness. And Halloween maybe doesn't feel as much like when we think about traditional Halloween, we think, okay, maybe trick-or-treating, but like that's done in groups or different things like that. But even David, to your point of there used to be that marked moment where it was like, do I still do this or am I a little too old now? I think we now see older groups, high schoolers, young adults, like people that also want to celebrate and participate in Halloween. And it's not even necessarily that they have their own kids that they're taking trick-or-treating, but it's like they do parties.
Yeah, there's a big rise in Halloween.
There's a big rise in that. And I think even that it adds to people being excited for Halloween, participating in Halloween. And I think it really boils down to the crave for community, and it's another time of the year where it's very much like, oh, we are like, this is gonna happen. We're gonna be able to have a party. People have this time kind of marked off in their head already because it is a holiday where they can get together. That's just even one of the things I think with the rise of Halloween, is it's a time for people to connect socially and even in a fun and unique way that they wouldn't normally. How many times do you get invited to a costume party? One time a year for most people.
That's right.
It's a fun avenue for people.
Yeah, that's good. I will say, though, Kelly and I were just talking about this the other day as we were driving through the neighborhood, how many homes are just decked out with Halloween stuff. And I mean, and big Halloween, props in their yards. And then too, we were watching TV, and how many of the movie ads are for scary movies, like there is a lot going on in culture. And then to your point, social media is just inundated with it. But I think it does bring up this tension for Christians. What do we do with all that? Right. One article that I was reading talked about, just the fascination with death and darkness. And does that reflect kind of a desire or a longing for something else, something beyond what we see every day? I don't know, but I think for the Christian, and certainly as church leaders, it brings up this tension of what do we do with all of this that's going on? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think with social media, we get to hear a lot of different perspectives.
Yes, we do.
Some really well-informed perspectives, some not so much on both sides of the equation. And so I think that pressures parents. I know as a parent, for my wife and I, we often feel not in terms of Halloween per se, but for a lot of different conversations, the pull of, so should we do this with our kid or should we do this with our kid? Like, what are we really to believe about that? And I think the word tension you use, David, is really the right word. Someone once told me that, the idea maybe isn't to resolve the tension completely, but to hold it faithfully. So like, how do I hold this faithfully as a Christian in a way that doesn't just write off everything as overtly good or everything as overtly bad? And one of the ways I like to think about that in terms of cultural moments is if something's going on in our culture that Christians have to wrestle with and hold attention in, we have a couple options. I think one of those options is we can retreat from culture, which is essentially remove ourselves as much as possible. The early church prioritized still having a voice, being a light in a dark place to be able to speak truth into culture. So I don't think retreat from culture, completely is the right option for us as followers of Jesus.
But it's tempting.
It's tempting.
In some ways, it feels safer, right? I'll just stay so far away from anything that might be bad.
Yeah.
So it is tempting.
Absolutely, it's tempting, and then on the other end you have the option, which is to be consumed by culture, which is just to engage in everything the world engages in, and then ultimately we become corrupted by the world. We want to be in the world, right, but not of the world. And so there's the consumed by culture. And then I think the third option for us, which I see as the most viable in the Bible, is to redeem culture, which is how do I take something that's happened in culture and then infuse gospel Christian-centered values into it. Christ redeems all brokenness and all evil, and we can play a part in Christ's role in our very world with that same attitude, I think. And there's but we don't want to pretend there's like that Halloween's this perfect holiday, right?
Man.
There is real darkness, right? And so we don't want to completely abandon that idea. I think that's why tension is the right word here.
Yeah. I one of the articles I read, I liked, the guy framed it pretty well in terms of like, how do we respond as Christians in this moment? And, the first one he said was protect your conscience and your neighbors. And I think, and your LC3 family, I would add, because you're right, you can land in a few different places, and it's easy to say, like we hear on social media, and this is the where you should land, as opposed to really searching out, like, what is God given us freedom to do or not to do, and then not judge somebody because maybe I feel like the Lord's given me freedom to whatever it is. But if he hasn't given somebody else that freedom, and then I accuse them of being weak because they don't have freedom to do that, as opposed to like just supporting them in that, or vice versa, however that lays out. So I thought that was good. And then identify the most realistic dangers, because I think, to your point, like, there are real dangers. And so, like, let's not ignore those. What are those? Of course, with something like Halloween, there's also some pretty practical dangers of eating a bazillion pounds of sugar and, what, just that reality. But there are some, and also coveting stuff, right? I mean, they have a better outfit than I have, and I want the bigger costume, or whatever. Seek out gospel-oriented opportunities, which is really a little bit of what we're wanting to talk about. But then I loved the fourth one, was shining light into darkness, which is really some of what you're talking about, redeeming the culture. And so with something like Halloween, I think, in church family, I'll start by saying this. I don't think we'll say something that will have 100% of you saying we line up exactly there. And that's okay. Like, we're okay with that. We do want to, as faithfully as possible, land in a place and talk about a place that doesn't compromise our beliefs, right? And so that shining the light in darkness is a good segue into, as a church, we've had to enter into this tension and say, as a church, what are we going to do? Because again, the church has those same three options, right? I mean, as a church, we can say, hey, stay away. We're not going to do anything to do with that. Or, no, it's a free-for-all. We're going to do everything.
Throw a dark, Halloween party.
Yes, we're going to do everything that we want to make sure everyone knows this is a place to be. Or, like, what does it look like to try to bring some light into a night that can honestly be a bit dark, right? Yeah. And so what is the plans at Lake City, Brendan?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for those of you that attend Lake City, you've probably heard some of the announcements. Is we're doing Trunk or Treat, which is just this opportunity. I think to the summarization of what we said is it's an opportunity for Lake City to be light in the darkness on Halloween night, which is really just an opportunity for. We as a church family are going to be serving our the community and like our own congregants with young kids of like, hey, Halloween can be a night where even if it's just like, oh man, I have young kids and like the house decorations are scary out there, and like that's not something I want to expose my kid to. It's like we are having an opportunity where you can still partake in the more fun aspects of Halloween, which is like my kid wants to dress up as Superman. We want to get some candy, and it's like the one day of the year where my kid like I give them a little bit of free for all and like candy and say stuff like that. And we are wanting to serve the community in having a space where every aspect that is like fun and still appropriate in our culture and in our convictions as believers is accessible for people to say you don't have to partake in all of the dark and serious and in some ways even like harmful things that Halloween is known for, or like the fascination with death and with like ghouls and with these dark things, but you can still enjoy and have community in the fun aspects in like a gathering together. And even as I said earlier, I think one of the reasons why it is popular, it's a time for people to gather, and we at Lake City are using Trunk or Treat as a way of like, hey, we want to gather as our church and as the community and just have fun together and be a safe space and an opportunity to still participate that's really available to everyone.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. I think we've talked about social media already, and I know one of the comments that I've gotten before as a youth pastor when I ran the high school group was, I noticed the high school group has an Instagram page, and so what if I don't want my kid on social media? And we'll say, well, don't have your kid on social media. Parents are the first and best disciplers. But my point in bringing that up is, with social media, we know people are there. The question is not, are people on social media? It's, can we engage them in a gospel-centered way? And I think Trunk or Treat is similar. There will be people in our culture, like whether we agree with it or not, who are going to be trick-or-treating. What are we going to do about it? And I think Brendan hit on all the things. We want a safe environment. And I think we want people walking out going like, man, I felt really like encouraged. I felt loved. I felt like this was a safe place. And maybe that person would never walk into the doors of a church ever in their life, but they'll come into the parking lot. And who knows what that experience might do for them to, hey, they'll maybe get a flyer with our church services. who knows, if they just walk out feeling more encouraged and more loved, for us, we feel like that's a win for the kingdom.
Well, I think, in addition to all of that, I love all of that. We are in a neighborhood that God planted us in over 100 years ago. And so we have neighbors that we drive by all the time coming to church. And, I love that when we can do things that our neighbors around here can see us active and can go, let's go check it out. And this is definitely one they come and check out. I mean, we're expecting 1,400 plus to come walking through our campus that night. And I think it's going to be amazing in the sense that they're even coming, but also who knows how God might use that for somebody to come and they meet somebody, they have a positive experience, and then, which we've heard a lot in these last couple months. I just last weekend had somebody come to church, and in my conversation with them, they said, I don't know, I woke up and I felt like I was supposed to go to church. Haven't been to church since I was a little kid, and I felt like I was supposed to come to church. When they get that inkling, our hope is that they'll think of us and say, oh, I had this really great experience. I'm going to go see that church.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's awesome. So what does the event itself look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. The event itself is going to be, the official time is 6 to 8, and it's just going to be about 50 cars out in the parking lot, trunks open, decorated, people in costumes. I'm going to be out there. Me and my wife are going to be National Parks Rangers. So, it's going to be all set. We're going to have like bear repellent, maybe like a little like camping cooler. I think that's where we're going to put our candy, little inside knowledge for there. But it's about 50 trunks that are going to all look like that, decorated with some sort of theme. Some people are doing Jonah from our fall series, like Jonah from the Bible. Like we're doing National Parks Rangers all across the board. And it's just going to be an opportunity where, in a very streamlined way, and like as we kind of said, like in a safe way, families and kids can go and kind of get that trick-or-treating Halloween experience in the safety of our confined space. But it's not just for the candy or the trunks. We're going to be having food. We're going to be serving hot dogs. We're going to be, raffling off like gifts in bigger gift baskets and prizes. And like every ounce of the parking lot is just going to be kind of this, almost like we said, as light in the dark. It's going to be this illuminated space where people can even drive by while they're out on Halloween night and be like, oh, there's something going on here. Let me check this out. But it's going to be just a night of fun, going through trunks. When you walk in, there's going to be a welcome tent, and they'll be able to answer any of your questions, anything like that. So that's really what the night's going to look like in terms of people participating. But on the inside of that church family, like it's a night that also requires a lot of our congregation to serve and to help out. And so many of you have already signed up and said you're willing to give your time and your talent to help us pull this event of outreach off. But we also still need more. Like we need more trunks. We need more people willing to serve in all the different avenues. But it's really kind of like what then.
So if they want to, what do they do if they're listening to this and they go, oh, I want to be involved, I want to help?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to involve and you want to help, you can go to the church website. There'll be a link for the registration on the website. If you just go to the, I believe it's about, and then like coming up in the life of the church. If you're at church in service, there'll be a QR code on some of the slides on screen, and then in the gathering area after the services this weekend, this weekend there will be a table in the back where you can sign up and write your contact information down, and we'll reach out to you. And honestly, we just want everyone to come and participate, whether that's attending or serving. But honestly, just come be a part of this opportunity to be a light in the community.
Yeah, so imagine you get to hit 50 homes in a small little space. All their lights are on, so they're all welcome for you to come to. It's amazing.
We've done our best this year too to not necessarily like vet like, hey, what specifically are you doing? But we are saying like we want to avoid some of those dark themes that we do see in the world. Like we are wanting to make it, Christ-centered as possible. And so I also think that just gives, parents, a safe alternative to some of the other opportunities.
Well, and it shows like we can have fun and be light.
Yeah.
Right? So I love that. I'd love to kind of wrap up, wait, before we wrap up, I do have to say, I almost started laughing when you said we're going to have hot dogs because we can't have events at Lake City without hot
We will
dogs.
have food. We will have food, 100%. Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's so great. And the Cadence Ministry is doing that. We so appreciate them, and it's like almost a tradition now.
Yes.
So yeah, I would just echo, like, make sure you come. It'll be great. But I want to just quickly talk about, like, if you're one of our parents and you've got kids, like, what can we leave parents with? And so similar to what I mentioned earlier, but I think, some of the things I would say, and I welcome you guys to kind of add into any of this, but, is parents, seek the Lord first. Don't listen to us. Seek the Lord first, and let the Holy Spirit guide you and be your conscience and give you. We say this: parents are the first and best disciples. You have agency in what you do with your with your family and with your kids. But we also would say, and part of why we're doing this is we want to love our neighbors really well, right? I mean, part of the reason we're going to all the trouble to do this work is we want to love our neighbors really well. But I want to talk about, like, I want to spend just at least a minute on this. I also think we should, as parents, we should make sure we talk to our kids about what they see, like what's going on. Like, ask them, like, what do you think's going on? There's also a really great conversation about the origins of Halloween, right? Like, that's a bigger conversation than we're going to fully unpack. But what other things would you say, like, would be good for parents to just talk to their kids about?
Yeah, I'm always interested, like, Wesley's almost 4, and he's so observant. And it's so funny because, like, toddlers often don't have, like, they have no shame in staring, right? So, like, you can see that they're interested in something. And, man, I know for Wesley, like, that's been a really good opportunity for me to just, after the fact go, hey, buddy, what did you see back there? What was going through your mind when you saw that? Tell me more about that. And I think that, especially for kids, their minds are going so fast, but having that space to actually process that. And, hey, if I saw something, out of the ordinary or someone dressed inappropriately, how do I have a conversation with my child that isn't demeaning of the person, but helps explain why we as followers of Jesus have a different path, while also called to love that person that we saw and not look down on them. And so some of those sorts of conversations, like a film session, after football, it's like, hey, what'd you see? What'd you do? How would you do that differently? Like, all those sorts of conversations.
Too bad we don't have the film to be able to rewind.
Yes.
And go,
yeah.
Right there. What were you thinking?
Why were you staring at that person for 20 minutes? Yeah, absolutely.
No, absolutely. I think what I would say for like parents, for families, and even just for anyone that's still, like, obviously we've said, like, with something like Halloween, like, it's a tension, and this short podcast isn't going to solve that tension for every single person. It's something you're going to continue to wrestle with. But even in myself, in my own convictions, as I've wrestled with this question, as I've been like, I'm going to pastor, like, I'm going to have people ask me questions like these, parents, students alike, is like we've alluded to, like we've said, like, know what is really out there, like, know what some people do celebrate and are celebrating, or some of the things that are a piece of Halloween. But then my encouragement for you, like families, parents, and listeners, and then also what can be conversations with your kids, with your students, and even just like your coworkers, your neighbors, your own family members, is the dangers are real, the dark parts are real, and Christ's victory is real as well. So even though, like, this is a night where some people use it as an opportunity to celebrate dark things, to be so absorbed or fascinated with death in dark things in the world, Christ's victory is just as real on Halloween as it is on any other day, and nothing can take away the fact that Christ won. And Christ is more powerful than any dark thing that the world could ever have. So that's kind of just a reminder.
Yeah, that's great. And I do think any events like these also give parents great teachable moments with their kids. And so, we mentioned some of them, like, you've got all this candy. Like, it's a teachable moment to talk with your kids about that. The quality of costumes. Do we make them? Do we buy them? That's another teachable moment that you get to have with your kids. And so I would just say, parents, take advantage of the fact that Halloween's going to happen whether we like it or not. It's going to happen. And so take advantage of that and have good conversations. Wherever you decide to land, have good conversation with the kids. And then, the last question I would say that's really healthy for families to have is ask them the question, what do you think we should do as a family? Let them chime in on it, not just be, hey, here's Wesley, here's what we're going to do. But, right now, yes, you're the director,
Yeah.
but eventually, it's great to pull them in and say, so what do you think we should do? And, because those become great ways to disciple your own children, to be able to move into, the other things that you'll be dealing with. So, all right. Well, church family, if you're listening to this, please make sure you come and check it out. Invite your neighbors, bring them. They're going to have a great time. And also, if you're willing to help and you're listening to this in real time, please give us a call because we could definitely use your help. So again, thanks you guys for joining me. Appreciate you guys a lot. And we will see you guys next time.
Thank you for joining us for connection, community, and relationship here on LC3 Family Talk. See you next time.